Morning, good afternoon. My name is Luz Duarte, and I will be taking the stance that I believe that the U.S. was correct in dropping the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Um, Everyone who was against it brought up some really good points, but mostly it was how it was inhumane and we have no morals. At the end of the day, the losing civilian lives in war is pretty much inevitable. They're there, they're living their lives, and then there's just fighting going around. So stuff like that is inevitable. So with that, I'm gonna start with saying how the U.S. was not prepared and was not trying to go to war this early. They were going to go into the Second World War eventually, just not this soon. But Japan did the surprise military attack on Pearl Harbor, which killed 2,403 people. That also included civilians, and it included obviously service members. And then it injured 1,178 people. It also sank and destroyed 6 U.S. ships. It destroyed 169 Navy and airport planes. We had talked about how somebody had brought up how, Pearl Harbor attack was against the military, but at the end of the day, military personnel are still innocent lives. Although I have been serving, for almost 7 years, and I don't have a say in what goes on. It's all usually the high military officials who have something to say, but at the end of the day, me, which is a lot of what were at Pearl Harbor, just your regular military personnel, we don't have a say. And one, they weren't prepared. Two, Japan hadn't declared war on the U.S., so the U.S. was not expecting that. It was a surprise attack. And it's one of those things like you fight with fire, and that's what you get, And so, also, whenever we were invading Japan, after however many years, the U.S. was becoming very weary, and Japan was fighting on their homeland and had an army of 2 million strong. So, with that, Japan was not willing to surrender. They were all about their emperor, and they were willing to do whatever for him, and so they were not willing to surrender. And so, also, the Japanese military command rejected the request for an unconditional surrender. Although many people argued that there were indicators that there was a possible conditional surrender, but we don't really know that. If you look at the Middle East and the war that we have been fighting for almost 2 decades, we were supposed to be out of there, but here we are. We're still losing lives. We're still fighting a war to a country that's not very well developed, and here we are. We don't know if this would have lasted very long. Granted, the war in the Middle East is just between the U.S. and pretty much the U.S. and the Middle East, and some of their allies, and this was a world war, so we don't know. We don't know how long that would have lasted. And so a lot of people also argued that dropping the bomb put fear into other nations, and the only reason that it was done was for the U.S. to basically say, hey, we're the top dog here, this is what we have, and we're going to show you up, pretty much to show up Russia. But if you look at it, the U.S. is the only country that has ever dropped a nuclear bomb on any other country. Still to this day, there's nothing that has been dropped. No nuclear bombs have been dropped. And I think that that's part of it, is people see what it causes, and they're just not willing to do that. And a lot of the times, it keeps countries mellow when they know you have nuclear weapons. So the end result, which is what everybody wanted, happened. Although a lot of lives were lost, we succeeded in the goal. And it was the most destructive war. And although the atomic bomb killed thousands of people, it prevented the killings of a lot more people. And additionally, a historian, Robert P. Newman, concluded that each month the war continued in 1945 would have produced the deaths of upwards of 250,000 people, mostly Asians and some Westerners. There was also a lot of prisoners of war that Japan had captured, and then they would just kill them off, especially when the camps, when it was a combat zone, like around the camps, because the Japanese feared that they would turn into a hostile fighting force and then obviously overrun them. And then also, if you look at one of the operations, Operation Meeting House, which was a firebombing raid on Tokyo that alone killed 100,000 people in 2 days, which caused more civilian deaths and destruction than atomic bombs dropped. A total of 350,000 people died in the incendiary raids on 67 Japanese cities. So that was just in 2 days that all those deaths happened. Also, the Chinese were losing a lot of people, hundreds and thousands of people throughout the war, and if it continued, they would have lost a lot more. So not only, yes, Japan took this fall, but it prevented the rest of the world and even Japan from losing even more people. And at the end of the day, it ended the war, and we don't know where we would have been if the war didn't end. All right, thank you.